Thank you. Today, I want to bring you guys all into a conversation about feces, or whatever you would prefer to call it. And I want to use design and talk about how design can help improve that conversation and get us to new ideas and better ideas. In 2008, I took a leave of absence from my day job at IDEO and went here to Cambodia to help build a sanitation market. I saw firsthand that what might look like an ideal Cambodian rice paddy rice field was in fact the village latrine. So it turned out that at the time about 8 in 10 Cambodians practiced open defecation. So essentially if they had to take a poop, this is where they went to do it. As you can imagine, they were probably also not washing their hands. The public health implications of this are enormous and terrible. I worked on 2 projects, a sanitation project in Cambodia, and then about a year later, a hand washing project in Vietnam that has had kind of regional rollout and regional implications. So this is what we designed in Cambodia. It's called the Easy Latrine. It's a simple, low-cost household latrine manufactured and distributed by local entrepreneurs and installed by villagers themselves. This latrine is about 70% completely built. When you finish the building, the latrines look like this. The project has had pretty good success for a sanitation program. So we've had tens of thousands of latrines installed in Cambodia. We have hundreds of businesses and people employed in the sale and manufacture of the latrine. And the project is spreading throughout Cambodia and then regionally to Laos, Bangladesh, East Timor, Nepal. And then the principles of sanitation marketing that we really helped kind of establish and develop have been taken on by multinationals. So probably most notably by Unilever and work they're doing in Ghana. This is the work we did in Vietnam. It's a hand washing station. You can think about it as a sink for people who don't have a sink. And it addresses kind of a simple but fundamental problem that you can't actually wash your hands if you don't have water and you don't have soap. This project is newer. It's just entering final design stages, and actually just this week I learned that we've received some funding to move it into mass production. Both of these projects, I worked as part of a team. So this is actually the Cambodian Easy Latrine team at breakfast on our very first day when we're going out to start our field research. And I'm not going to talk a lot today about the details of either of those designs. What I really want to share with you is our discovery as a team and my discovery personally of how design can be used as a tool to enable conversations, to help problems and help solve issues in the developing world. Through these projects and through subsequent projects, I've learned and found that design enables longer, deeper, in a different set of conversations than kind of traditional development research tools, and can lead to ideas you just don't expect to happen, and a behavior of co-creation with your villagers or user base that you're just not going to get with other tools. So I'm going to tell some anecdotes and take you through a few learnings. So when we first started our project in Cambodia, one of the most perplexing things that we saw was that everybody was envisioning a latrine like this. So the yellow building in the background is what we came to refer to as the Cambodian dream latrine. So it's a concrete structure, a tile floor, a nice water basin, a space to wash yourself. And this one happened to be owned by the village chief, and it was the only latrine in the whole town. And even villagers who lived in one-room thatch houses were envisioning this when we were asking them about latrines. And clearly we were going to fail to build a sanitation market if we were going to try to sell people what was a multi-$100 latrine when their annual income was less than $350. So we started to look around, and it's a kind of a common tool in design to look for analogous insight. So it wasn't very long until we saw a behavior with houses and home building. So it's pretty ubiquitous in Cambodia for people to slowly upgrade their homes over time. So what was a thatch roof becomes a tin roof, thatch walls become wooden walls, a dirt slab becomes a concrete slab. So bit by bit, dollar by dollar, people invest in the materials and the labor to upgrade and improve their home. So the question for us, which really sparked in our mind, was, can we do the same thing with latrines? Could we get people to invest some money now, buy a basic functional latrine, and then over time make these upgrades so that they would eventually get to their dream latrine? To kind of probe into this process, we started prototyping. And prototyping for a designer is probably our most core and fundamental tool. So we take our ideas and we put them in some form, two-dimensional form, three-dimensional models, whatever it might be, and take them out to villagers or users and try to get some feedback from them to improve the ideas. And we do this successively. So to probe on the idea of upgrading, what you see here is kind of me squatting on the ground, showing an upgrade path poster to a set of villagers in a small focus group. So what you can see in the first image is what you might get if you spent $20. In the second image, if you spent $20 more, so next year, you would have that much nicer latrine, and so on and so on. You could build up your latrine. In the foreground of that picture, there's some small, maybe 1/5 scale models, and the intention was to have villagers build up these latrines. I've never, in a decade of working as a professional designer, seen such blank stares as when we were trying to explain these ideas. We had kind of missed the boat. I probably should have recognized this, because when I went to get this poster plotted in Cambodia, there was actually only one plotter in the entire country where I could print a long-form poster. And it turns out that this sequential linear process just doesn't make sense in Cambodia. It's not a graphic element they read. With the scale models, the villager commented on the rings. He said, those rings are really small. They're going to fill up really quickly. And he was right. We had given him a scale model, and he had never really seen anything at scale. So we were just missing the boat in communication. So what was supposed to be a week-long trip to the field was a one-day trip to the field. So we kind of packed up our bags, headed back to Phnom Penh, and thought about what we had done wrong. We came back a week later with these. So it was the same graphics, the same digital files, just printed on transparencies. We handed the stack of transparencies to villagers, and instantly they started shuffling them and building up their latrine. So they could say, oh, this is a latrine that I can afford to build now. I add another layer, and this is a latrine I can afford to build next year. The fundamental difference between this and what we had done the week before is that this was an additive process. So when people build their homes, which is what we were trying to leverage, it's not like they build this home this year and then this home next year and then this home the year after. They build one home and then add on to it. And that's finally what we got to with these transparencies. So we learned something very fundamental about the design of the latrine that only came to us because of these transparencies. It turns out that through more conversation and more prototyping, people did not really want help with anything except that bottom layer of transparencies. And that bottom layer was the basic plumbing. And that, in the end, is what the easy latrine was. It's just the plumbing guts. We don't sell the shelter, we don't sell a complex slab, we don't sell a water basin, we just sell the plumbing guts. And it's kind of like most of us, probably. I would guess almost no one in this room knows or cares about the plumbing that's behind the walls in their bathroom. You just care that it works. You don't know how it works or how it got installed. You care about what the toilet bowl looks like, what the sink looks like, what the wallpaper looks like. And it was the same here in Cambodia. They told us that solve this problem and then we can do the rest. Prototyping was also played a huge role in the design of the hand washing station. So we were, this was the second trip we went out to the field in Vietnam, and we had brought some prototypes with us from the US. And this is one of many prototypes you see pictured here. And we were in the midst of a focus group in a village, and this one villager was kind of overflowing with ideas. And we finished the group discussion after about an hour, and he stayed about 40 minutes longer, wanting to talk to us more. We eventually packed up our van, drove to the next village. He followed us on his bike and listened to the whole conversation we had with this next set of villagers, and then stayed another 40 minutes so he could talk to us some more. We're like, wow, this guy, he's really into hand washing stations. And as we were packing up at the end of that day, we kind of made a little huddle and said, you know, this guy's got some ideas. So we asked him, like, would you be willing to take this hand washing station home? Do whatever you want to it, change it however you want, but can we come back in a week and just see what you've done? So he was excited. He said yes. We came back, and this is what he had done. He had taken that hand washing station, screwed it to the wall of his house, added this catchment basin you see in the bottom, a little drainage pipe, and changed the soap dish. All interesting, all great. He was designing for us. But perhaps the most interesting thing he did is that he put it in his kitchen. And he told us, we asked, why did you put it in your kitchen? Because if you're familiar with hand washing, there's kind of 4 critical junctures to wash your hands. After you go to the bathroom, after you change a diaper, before you cook food, before you eat. And he said that he had discussed with his wife, and they decided that washing their hands in their kitchen was the most critical time because it was when they were at most risk of contaminating their own family. All the other circumstances or times when they were at most risk of kind of just of contaminating themselves. So this opened our eyes. And we added a question to all of our subsequent interviews. We would hand a hand washing station typically to the village woman that we were interviewing and ask her, if you just had one, where would you put it? 100% of the time, she put it in her kitchen. And so what became a somewhat amorphous value proposition around wash your hands at all these critical times, and it was a difficult product design because it needed to work inside and outside and buy a latrine and buy a chicken coop, became very clear. This was a product to be used in your kitchen to keep your hands clean so you don't make your family sick before you cook for them. As we were designing and prototyping the hand washing station, we also got lucky in some learnings. Kind of because we made some mistakes. So you'll recognize the hand washing station on the right. The one on the left was just another prototype we had brought to people. When we were showing these to women, this was a little bit before we had our insight about the kitchen, we were asking them, where could you imagine mounting these around your house? And most of the women said, the one on the right I could put in front of my house or I could put behind my house. The one on the left, everyone said, oh, I'll put that one just behind my house, not in front of my house. And to us, they kind of looked the same. So we had to understand. And it turns out that what was for us a reused water container, which we got from our kind of water cooler at work, was for them also a repurposed container. Because water containers like the one you see on the left are fairly ubiquitous in rural Vietnamese restaurants, and some households have them. And so what we saw was that a higher level need, this need about not wanting my neighbors to see that I have reused containers in front of my house, concerned about the aesthetic sensibilities of my house, was going to impact what we were trying to achieve, which was this lower level need of improving hand sanitation. So we only found this because we made a mistake, and we were cognizant to the feedback from that mistake. Up to this time, I've mostly talked about how design helped improve a product. And I think most people here would recognize that designing a product or a new idea is just part of the puzzle. You have to design the whole ecosystem that product goes into. In Cambodia, it turns out that the latrine we designed, and if there's anybody in the audience that works in sanitation, you'll recognize that latrine is really not novel. The idea of it has been around for decades. We made some tweaks to make it work in Cambodia, but it's not a novel design. So a villager, when we started the project, could have gone and bought that same thing almost. But it would have been a very difficult process. So they would have had to go to their village mason and get a shopping list, travel into the commune town, visit 3 different retailers, purchase all the components, have transportation arranged to bring those back to their village, go back to the mason, and hire them to install and build a latrine. In the course of our prototyping, not only did we go to villages, but we went to all of those prospective retailers and stakeholders. And what we were searching for was who would be the best person to become a latrine entrepreneur. And we found it in this guy you see pictured, who is an existing business, and they make precast concrete parts. And we worked with him to become a one-stop latrine shop. So all of those components, so the PVC pipe, the ceramic pan, the bricks, the mortar, anything that be required, he went and did the legwork, and then he would deliver that latrine fully packaged for a household to install. So it made the job of the household or the burden to the household much easier. We also worked with him on marketing and branding. So you see here a product display and a banner. Pretty basic, not very beautiful, but you don't see this stuff in rural Cambodia unless it's Coca-Cola, a telecom company, or a national political party. So this is not common, certainly not common for a latrine business. We also worked with them on technical issues. So this latrine already kind of existed. So you see on the left a brick version of this catchment basin. People were already building that. It's kind of hard to build. So we redesigned and worked with the concrete producer to build this precast version on the right. It cut the cost of that component in half and let the villagers install it by themselves. We worked on manufacturing processes, introducing new equipment and new concrete mixes. Again, cutting costs. So we brought the cost of the latrine from $60 down to $35, which is where it's sold today. And it increased production rates 3 times. So for the same investment, the latrine producer could make that many more latrines. And then we trained on business practices, basic finance, sales strategies, stock keeping, marketing. And perhaps one of the most fulfilling parts of the whole process was watching the entrepreneurs continue the design and innovation after we were gone. So we didn't get everything right. So we anticipated that the latrine entrepreneurs would go out to villages and make sales calls and marketing pitches. It turns out they could make a lot more money if they stayed at home making latrines and hired sales agents on small commissions to go out and do the sales calls for them. So what you see here is a female sales agent pitching to a small set of village women. And she created her own innovations. So she instituted group buying programs, because it's not very efficient for the entrepreneur to deliver one sold latrine at a time. They have to drive a few kilometers and deliver one latrine. So she agreed with the entrepreneur that if they could get 10 villagers to purchase a latrine, they would get a discount of $5. And so they offered that, and it worked. They went one step further and said, if for the people that took this $30 price, now the discounted price, for $5 more, we'll put tile on your slab. And I would say around 95% of households actually purchase that small upgrade. So it's better for the business, it's more money for the business, it's a better product for the user, and it came out of our entrepreneurs and our sales agents doing their own innovation. In the course of these projects, I saw many times that design and the tools of design, prototyping, analogous observations, lead to new ideas and ideas we're not expecting. So the extensive prototyping based on that observation around house building led to a plumbing-only latrine solution. Supporting and listening to the lead user at the hand washing station led to a kitchen-specific hand washing station. Working with the entire ecosystem on the design of the latrine program led to a one-stop shopping model. So I recognize that there are a lot more problems in the world than just sanitation and hand hygiene. And perhaps what's most exciting for me is the potential for design to work with all the other disciplines in development to come up with new ideas, to create new conversations, and get to better ideas to solve the problems we're facing. Thank you.